Welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at Hadrian's Wall. This is a 1 to 6 player resource management tech track draw and write game, where you take the role of a Roman general, constructing and maintaining a mile castle in its bordering wall. You'll be utilizing your people and resources, trying to become the most successful Roman general. How to become the most successful Roman general and win the game? By having the most victory points at the end of the 6th year or round. Now that we know what the winning condition is, let's take a look at the components, setup, and how gameplay works in Hadrian's Wall. Now let's take a look at the components. There are 2 player sheets. There is a wall sheet and a citizen sheet. Player boards, these come in 2 parts. Across the top, you have the year or round. This is where you will tuck your path cards. And then next to the year, you have battle information for the picks, with the green, yellow, and red being the difficulty. Player cards, there are 6 different colors and images on the back of the card. At the top of the card, you have the in-game scoring bonus if you choose to play it as a path card. The middle of the card is used for the scout action. The bottom left resources are the resources you gain if you play it as a prospect card. And the bottom right is used for the market action. Fate cards. At the top of the fate card, you have a cohort with an arrow. This is used when determining attacks from the picks. Underneath that, on the left, is a number of gladiator attack used in the gladiator action. On the right side is a trade good used for the market action. At the bottom of the card are the resources and workers gained at the beginning of a year. Next, we have our workers and resources. You have soldiers, builders, servants, civilians, and resources. And finally, we have your rulebook. Now let's take a look at the setup. We're going to be setting this up for a 3-player game, which takes 4 steps. Step 1, shuffle and place the fate card. Shuffle the fate cards and place them face down in the center of the play area. Step 2, create a supply pool. Place resources and workers in the center of the play area. Keep in mind that resources are unlimited. Step 3, choose a difficulty. Players will choose a difficulty: easy, medium, and hard. This is indicated on your player board in green, yellow, and red banners. It is recommended to play easy for your first few games. This determines how many fate cards you will draw at the end of the year, which represents the pick's attack. Step 4, get player component. Choose a color and get the corresponding player cards of that color, a player board, wall and citizen player sheets, and a pen or pencil. In the center of your player area, you will place the 2 player sheets next to each other. You'll place the wall player sheet to the left and the citizen player sheet to the right. Then you'll place your player board above your sheets. And finally, shuffle your player cards and place them face down to the left of your player board. Now let's take a look at the gameplay. A game consists of 6 years or rounds. Each year or round has 3 phases: the year setup, actions, and end of year. Now let's look at each of these phases in detail. Phase 1, year setup. To begin each year or round, you will take 3 steps. Step 1, get fate card workers and resources. You will flip over a fate card and get the workers and resources indicated at the bottom of the card. Then you'll place them on your player board. Step 2, draw and play player cards. Players will draw 2 player cards and choose 1 to play as a path card for in-game victory points and 1 to play as a prospect card to get resources. You would place the path card face down above your player board and your prospect card face down to the right of your player board. Then, once all the players have chosen their cards, they would flip them over. For the path card, you would tuck it under your player board at the corresponding year or round, and it will give victory points at the end of the game. For the prospect card, you would get the workers and resources depicted on the bottom left. Step 3, check for additional workers and resources. You will check the resource production for additional resources, the hotel for additional civilians, the workshop for additional builders, and the road for attributes. Then we move to phase 2, actions. Players will simultaneously take actions. They will be using their workers and resources until they run out of workers and resources. Keep in mind that any workers or resources left at the end of this phase will go back to the main supply. The cost for each action is located in the tan box next to the title. Once you've paid the cost, you would fill in the white circle or box, gaining anything depicted in that box. For the boxes with numbers in them, you would record the year or round. Now let's look at each section on both of the player sheets. Starting with the wall sheet. At the very top of the wall sheet, you have cohorts. These defend against picks attacks. A cohort icon is required to fill in one of these boxes. Next, we have your granaries, small, medium, and large. You would fill these in left to right, and you can fill in the small granary, but to fill in any boxes that are in the medium granary, you have to build it first. In the granary, you have mining and foresting. To take this action, you would return 1 servant back to the supply. This gains you production and resources. Wall Guard. These gain you cohorts. To take this action, you must return one soldier back to the supply or gain a sword reward. For the Sippy and Wall, you fill in left to right, and you must have the fort filled in underneath that box. These give you cohorts and other rewards, and cost one resource. The Fort. These gain you rewards and opens up granaries. To take this action, you must return one builder or one soldier back to the supply. Granaries. These allow you to build larger granaries, opening up the next section. The cost to build is next to the name. The Banner is the infrastructure number, which is achieved by building up your fort. Resource production. This is how you get additional resources each year, and the cost to take this action is a production symbol. The training grounds. You would gain sword rewards, and to take this action, you must return a builder back to the supply. Keep in mind that you can only take this action once per year. Hotel, workshop, and road. These gain you a yearly benefit of either a civilian for the hotel, builder for the workshop, and attribute for the road. You would build these top to bottom, and the cost is next to the name. Each of these require a number of infrastructure. The Forum. Once per year, you can exchange 2 workers for 1 of a different type. Keep in mind that you cannot exchange soldiers. Landmarks. These are epic structures. These require 15 of a particular attribute, along with the depicted cost. Below that, you have your attribute tracks. When you gain one of those symbols, you would fill in the box, and each of the boxes will be worth 1 victory point at the end of the game. Disdain and victory point scoring is located at the bottom of the wall sheet. Now let's look at the citizen sheet. On the left side, you have the citizen tracks for traders, performers, priests, apparitors, and patricians. To go up on any of these citizen tracks, move a civilian back to the main supply, or gain a specific icon. Going up these tracks give you specific buildings that you can build and use. For the traders, you have precincts. These required certain trader levels and depicted costs. Also for traders, you have the market. The market requires a trader level and depicted cost, and you must build the market, and then you can use the market by paying a resource. When you pay that resource, you would write down the trade number on either the fake card that you draw or another player's fake card. You do not have to go in any particular order in the market, as long as you meet the criteria. When you draw a fake card for trade goods, you would write down that number and return the resource to the supply. When you use a neighboring fake card from either the player on your left or the right, you would give that resource to that player. Then you would write down the number on their prospect card. This gives you a number of renown based on the different numbers that you have in your market. For performers, you can build the theater. This requires a performer level and a depicted cost, and you must build the theater before you can use it. To use the theater, you would pay 1 resource, have the required performer level, and you can have 1 performance per year. Performers can also build the Ludus Gladiatorius. This requires a performance level and depicted costs, and requires you to build it first. Then you can build up your gladiator, either red or blue, by moving a servant or civilian back to the supply. And then you can battle once per year for each gladiator. You would write down the year or round number for that gladiator, and then flip a fake card over and take that many damage left to right, filling in the circle. If you have any open circles left for your gladiator, you would gain the rightmost renown. If you do not have any circles left, you would gain the rightmost piety. For priests, you have the gardens. This requires a priest level and depicted cost to gain that bonus. Also, priests have temples. This has a required priest level and depicted cost to build each temple. You must build the small temple before the medium, and the medium before the large. For apparitors, you have baths. This requires an apparitor's level and cost, and you must build the bath first. Then you can pay bribes, paying the cost to fill in a disdain. This takes it away from the disdain total. Also for apparitors, you have the courthouse. This requires an apparitor level, and you must pay the cost to build the courthouse first. This gains you workers by paying the cost. For patricians, you have the diplomats. This requires a patrician level and depicted cost. Gaining a diplomat would grant you favor in a cohort. When gaining a diplomat, you must indicate left, center, or right for where your favors are available. Also for patricians, you have scouts. This requires a patrician level, and you must move a soldier back to the main supply to utilize it. Then you would fill in a pattern from either your own or a neighbor's prospect card. If it's your own prospect card, you would move the soldier back to the main supply, but if it is from a prospect card of another player, you would move that soldier to their supply. When filling in a pattern, you can rotate and or reflect that pattern, and you get 1 valor for each completed row. Once all the players have finished taking their actions, we move to phase 3, end of year. This takes 3 steps. Step 1, all the workers and resources go back to the supply. Step 2, draw a number of fake cards equal to the year or round difficulty number. This simulates Pick's attacks. Step 3, each player resolves attacks. You would compare the number of each arrow with that cohort's number. If you succeed by having greater than or equal to the arrow number, you get Valor equal to the number in the gray flag. If you fail by having a number of attacks get through, you can gain Disdain for each up to the gray flag number. And if that number that you let through is smaller than that gray flag number, you would gain a number of Disdain and the blocked amount of the gray number in Valor. So if it was 2 and you blocked 1, you would gain 1 Disdain and 1 Valor. Keep in mind that favors earned allow you to cancel 1 card of that arrow type. When gaining Disdain, you would circle a Disdain and you would get negative victory points at the end of the game. Once all the players have resolved the attacks, we would go to the next year. And years or rounds would continue until the end of Phase 3 in the 6th year or round. Then the players would add up their victory points on the bottom of the wall sheet, attribute cards, Disdain, and total, and the player with the most victory points is the greatest Roman general and wins Hadrian's Wall.